Let's paint a cupcake in watercolors. I'm using this reference photo from Pexels. And before starting to paint, I'm preparing grey by mixing ultramarine blue and sepia. This I will use to paint the white cream of the cake. For this entire painting process, I have used wet on wet technique, where I apply water first and then the color. The grey I am using is very dilute because it needs to be little darker than the white of the paper. It's a very watery paint and I'm just putting it as a hint of light and shadow on the white cream. Then I introduce raw sienna, again very dilute, and spread it with water. And then watery grey at the borders. I'm just hinting the folds of the cream by playing with tonal value of grey. Since the white cream is reflecting the yellow color below, I am using watery raw sienna to depict the same, and then adding smaller details with grey. Then I begin painting the yellow cream. Here again I am using raw sienna, but another alternative can be gamboge. The paint doesn't have much water, and I paint it in a way that it looks like a chunk of cream. I dab the brush around for some light dark areas and then put burnt umber, which gives a nice realistic look to the cream. Whatever layers I'm adding to paint the cream, they spread so easily because the first layer is water. This portion which faces the light, I'm using gamboge and then raw sienna and burnt umber for the folds of the cream. Then I start painting the cake. Here again, after the water, I apply raw sienna first and I drag the brush on the paper, creating a texture. After that, I use sepia to show the shadow under the cream and some baked chocolate in the cake. For the paper covering the cake, I apply a good amount of water and then a mixture of ultramarine blue and sepia. Here, the quantity of blue is more than sepia, so it looks like bluish grey. And then raw sienna, pulling the strokes upwards. Trying to paint as many as vertical strokes to depict the folds of the paper. And then some burnt umber at the bottom. If you like watercolors and would like to have more in-depth guided tutorials about varied subjects, then do consider joining me on Patreon. I have an in-depth tutorial of how I painted these macaroons in watercolors and many such tutorials. Coming back to our cupcake painting, I am using smaller brush to paint the details. Here the paper has dried and I will use dry on dry technique to paint the details. Using grey, I start with the details, like the inner and the outer folds of the paper. The color has more water and so it gives that transparent look. I just get some light lines on the paper which depict soft shadows on the folds. The base is darker and since the paper is sticking to the cake, the color here is more brownish yellow, which will continue in the folds too. So, using the same technique, I continue to define the folds with sepia. The last part of the painting, let's add some shadow at the base of the cake. I apply generous amount of water, then a layer of sepia at the very base of the cake. This underpainting helps me giving a nice gradient shadow as I apply bluish grey on top of it. And in the end, I get soft shadow under the cake. So this was the complete painting process of Cupcake in watercolors. If you enjoyed the process, do consider subscribing to my channel, and I will meet you in the next video. Till then, happy painting.